we're gonna move on to our three quickfire questions that we're asking everybody in this series of the power test. So the first one is we want your contribution to our fantasy cabinet that we're building up by talking to everybody. So who's the one person, that can be dead, alive, real or fictional, who you're adding to Keir Starmer's first cabinet, and what role are you giving them?
Yeah, well, I hate to pull back the curtains, but I don't know if your listeners know that we get these questions in advance. I always think it's funny in podcasts that you sometimes get these questions in advance, and everyone sort of knows that, but you don't know. You don't necessarily.
Thanks for that, Josh.
But yeah, sorry, I couldn't help it. But I mean, we were brainstorming. I was brainstorming with the team what I should say, and
focus grouped your answer.
I've got to say with the link,
I love it,
isn't it? We got. Thomas the Tank Engine for transport, Doc from Back to the Future for DSIT, Sappho for women, and possibly my favourite was Boudica for defence. And then I thought, actually, seriously, what do I actually think? This will probably sound a bit pretentious, but I am a bit of a classics obsessed person, and I immediately thought it's got to be Cicero. And why? Two simple reasons. One is that he did lots of things. He was a lawyer, he was a historian, but his big thing was always the most important thing I did was politics, was to be a statesman. And I think there's something quite interesting about the extent to which he thought that politics was about being virtuous, being a character of integrity, and explaining that to the people that you were supposed to represent and work with. And I think we've lost some of that in our politics, and we really, really, really need it back. A bit of integrity, a bit of character, a bit of thinking of politics as a noble thing to do and pursue.
It's a good opportunity for me to plug Robert Harris's Cicero trilogy, which is, I think, is one of the best books about politics you can read.
But you haven't told us what role Cicero's going to be doing.
Oh, that's true.
Is it going to be like local government? What's he going to be doing?
Be speechwriter, surely.
Local government. So what? I don't have to bump anyone to do this. This is all constructed from the top, because I don't know who the others are. All of them, I know some of them, but what would Cicero? I think he would probably have to be either foreign or probably foreign, not defence, foreign. And he's, the really interesting thing about Cicero also is that he existed at an age that was transitioning from an age of empire, and I think. One of the really important things that I think are undervalued by think tanks around Labour is that geopolitics matters for everything you do in government these days, everything. Yeah. You cannot deliver for working people in Britain unless you are thinking constantly about statecraft, about Britain's role in the world, about, our relationship to China, India, and so on. And Cicero would have understood that the kind of tectonic plates of geopolitics are completely shifting right now. And that to deliver for the working people of this country means being serious about understanding how.
I'm just imagining sending Cicero to the G20. It would just be fantastic.
Wouldn't that be good?
Okay, Josh, what is the one policy that you don't think Labour's talking enough about?
Well, yeah, I thought about this question about 10 days ago, and then they talked about it. So, that was good. But I still think we could go even further on it. Which was defence spending at 2.5% of GDP. And I think that the story of how we have come to export submarines around the world, this is not a sort of, I should say up front, this is not an election decisive question, this, I don't think for a moment. But I do think that, following on from the last question, we live in a world where defence is very, very important for all sorts of other things, not just a literal question of defending our island. For example, defence is really important for our relationship with Europe. For example, Europe cannot build enough munitions to help Ukraine defend itself without the United States. That is a problem, because the United States cannot be relied upon forever to supply the munitions that, a European country needs to defend itself. And we have this great story of, in Labour, actually, not just Britain, but Labour. We said in the last Labour government, we're going to build submarines in Britain. And then we invested in the, technologies, the spaces, we built Barrow, and then we started doing that. And then the coalition government said, this is too good to lose and to cut, so they didn't. And then in AUKUS, we said, we're essentially going to export submarines all over the world. And that is a great story, I think, of, how a serious strategic look at where the UK can have distinctive strengths, and then a sustained long-term investment in those strengths can actually reap, what are we? It's 2024 now. I think that decision was made in 2006 or 7. Very, very long-term rewards that are vital for the kind of geopolitical position of our country.
The final question. What's the test you'd set Keir Starmer's Labour to show that it's in power to change Britain for the better?
Well, the politics that we say we try to build and we try to think of across everything we do in Labour Together is about putting working people first, about delivering for working people. And it's an easy thing to say that. What does it actually mean? And one of the things that I think that Labour should really think hard about is, what are its metrics for evaluating over the course of the coming months and years, for evaluating whether or not it's doing that. And I think in politics, we often talk about, voters that we meet on the doorstep and, what they say to us and so on. But what would it mean to capture that experience and place the experience of working people as the kind of guiding test that a government sets itself, even if it's, a party sets itself, even if it's in power? For instance, they have this data science thing in number 10, as some of your listeners will know. And mostly what it does is track things like how many hospital bed vacancies there are or what waiting times are like and so on. What if that tool tracked, how much working people trusted their government, what savings they had in their pockets, a set of really concrete things that characterize what it's like to be a working person in Britain? And what if that was the thing that every person in a Labour government in the future woke up to try to change? I think that would have a big impact on refocusing Labour in some ways away from some of the aggregate, quite abstract things towards the really concrete, tangible sorts of metrics that you might think about to delivering for working people. So pick, say, 4 of those metrics and then see over the course of each year in a parliament, are they changing? And if they are, then you're delivering for working people. And I think that will be the political test of Keir Starmer's Labour Party.